first, and then I will break down some of the tips and tricks and ideas. So the strategy is to go from a plow pose where we hold our toes to keep our legs straight, to roll up and to land and touch the chin down toward the floor. So that can present quite a bit of challenge for a lot of students. And there are things that we can do to build up to it. So the first thing we need to investigate is it possible to put pressure on the neck? So this is number one. So one way that we can practice the Supta Konasana. So supine Supta Konasana is where we take our legs above like so, and we balance on our shoulders. And there's oftentimes where students have the inability to put the pressure on the neck due to neck displacement. And there's also the element of if our hamstring muscles are really tight. So like if I go to touch my toes and I'm having a really hard time to get all the way forward, then we also find that having the body resting on top of our chest and shoulders, that this is very difficult. The first thing that we'll see that will be challenging is that we'll go to take the legs above the head, and it's hard to get the momentum to actually get up high enough that we can get our hands onto our lower back. So there is a way to modify the Supta Konasana position. And one way we can do that is we can actually just lay on our back and grab a hold of either the calves, or if you have the flexibility to grab the big toes. Often if you have the flexibility to grab the big toes here, you likely have the flexibility to actually come up. But if you are suffering neck pain, it's really important to just like not put a lot of pressure on the neck when you're healing and rehabbing, so that you might have the flexibility to be able to go all the way up, but maybe you're choosing consciously to practice the pose with your with the pressure on your back and holding the toes. So wherever you are here, the main thing really is to bend knees and use momentum to come up. So this is the first strategy or technique to start practicing, the ability to lay on your back. You can use your hands behind your legs and just roll up to seated. So that's really the first thing to try. All right. And then if you can get into the element of, say, I can get to here, but I'm unable to get my hands to my toes because I go to take my other hand to my toe and I fall out of the pose. So another way to approach the Supta Konasana in preparation for the roll up into the Upavishta Konasana is to keep the hands on the lower back and to start off here and hold the pose for the 5 breaths on the shoulders. And then if you're ready to, when you're ready to come up, just simply grab your legs, roll up, land your legs on the floor, reach out, grab your feet, and fold forward as far as you can and touch your chin down to the floor if that's an option. Or simply just grab a hold and start to fold your body forward. Now the vinyasa, or the breath movement coordination here, is to hold in the upside down pose on the shoulders for 5 breaths, to inhale, come up to the balance point, to exhale and land the legs down. So let me demonstrate the specifics of the vinyasa. So we would inhale, jump through, exhale, lie down, inhale, bring your legs above, exhale, catch your toes and separate. One of the strategies here is to be able to hold the toes and have the toes touch the floor, and take the legs as wide as you can actually keep the contact of your toes on the floor. And we would hold and breathe for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is an inhale, and this is an exhale. And you hold your toes and you inhale, and then you exhale and release. So there's a very specific breath coordination. So if you're practicing primary series, it's important to memorize that routine and so that you're aware of what's going on. And then when we modify, we try to follow the vinyasa as much as possible. So for example, if I'm going to back up and I start here where I'm just holding the pose because I'm modifying pressure on my neck, and I breathe for 5 breaths, I'm going to inhale and practice coming up. I could, in theory, try grabbing my feet and see if I can balance here for just that breath. Now coming down, this is the tricky part. We are officially holding the big toes in this pose. To be able to come down requires some faith. And it also requires that you don't bend your knees and fall on your heels. Because if you come down really hard, bam, and hit your heels, it's painful. So one strategy, if you can land in this position, is to bend your knees, touch your heels on the floor, slide them out, and then fold forward and down. And we could do all of that on one exhale. So that's one strategy. Bend the knees. So if you come up to here, well, let me set it all the way back. You're laying back. You create some momentum. You maybe stick the Upavishta Konasana B position. You bend your knees. You touch your heels on the floor. Slide it out. And then go for that final exhale fold. So that's another strategy. Now, the rolling process is a good way to strengthen or develop abdominal control, because there's a lot of poses that are coming up later on down in the second series and beyond that require this sort of control. Another classic place that we begin to learn this, we've already gone through before, but that's the Garbha Pindasana, where we take our legs in lotus and slide the arms through, or if we modify, but we have this motion where we rock and we go back and forth and we turn all the way around in a circle. So this is one place that we start to learn the ability to roll. Another good way to start learning the roll, work the roll, is to just grab behind your knees and think of your back as like a rocking chair. You keep your back relatively rounded and you just rock forward and back a few times. So quite simple. And this is really the essence of the movement, is being able to create momentum and rock back and rock forward. So now we start adding all these different ingredients together, and that's what makes the Ashtanga practice quite rich, quite so fun and challenging. Because now we're going to blend in the ability to stick the landing back here in Supta Konasana to create momentum. Now, a big part of the momentum here to come up with straight legs is I'm going to try to use my momentum by throwing my hips and rocking up and landing and holding the balance. So keeping the legs really straight, and right before coming up, creating some momentum of just a little slight throw of the hips forward. Just a slight throw of the hips forward. Let me see if I can slow it down enough that you can see it, and then perhaps you can feel it as well if you're trying. So the trick is to, like, I'm going to take my hips above my head, and then right before I'm getting ready to release, I squeeze my legs super strong and roll up. Now, also, the shoulders kind of doing a little bit of a, be aware that you can create some momentum with that movement of your arms and your shoulders right before the takeoff. So you roll back, you try to throw your hips a little forward. You'll be able to go so far. You'll use your arms and kind of get a little bit of a, almost like you're pushing your arms down while they're up above. So you will be using the muscles here in your ribs and your arms to kind of, and then that momentum right at the end. A lot of the next thing that happens is the use of your head is how you control the sticking, the landing. So watch, you throw your hips a little bit, you throw your arms. Right about here, I keep my chin in, and right when I land the balance, I'm going to try to lift my chin up. So you're going to keep your chin tucked in nice and tight. And then right when you feel like you're just about to hit the balance point, that's when you go ahead and lift your chest up. So it requires split motion, split time, like immediate timing, like nail it, like boom, you got to stick it, right? And then the trick of landing, that's a whole nother story, because straight leg landing is really tough. Now, if you widen your legs, if you widen the legs and you widen the legs, then there's this point where I'm just about to tip. I'm trying to lean back enough that I don't fall. I have my legs as wide as they'll go. You got to make sure you squeeze your quads so your quads are locked out. You got to squeeze your quads. You can't let your knees bend at all, and you got to commit. And the other element is that your foot dorsiflexing. Like, you don't want to have your foot pointing at all. You're going to try to get as much range of motion with the dorsiflex as possible. So you keep a really strong dorsiflex. You keep a really strong extended knee position. You wait for it, get as close as possible. Then when there's like, I can't hang on anymore, you just keep your body relatively stiff and land. So, the first time you do it, maybe take a blanket. If you're on the wood floor, you don't have a soft surface, put a blanket where your heels will land. This might be too high, like it doesn't have to be a really high blanket, but something that then when you come down, if you were to get scared and bend your knees, you'll land on something soft. So it just hurts to land really hard on the back of your heel for obvious reasons. Bone, hitting wood, not comfortable. All right, so that's the basic gist on the roll-up. I hope some of these tips and tricks help you if you're working on it. If you're a brand newbie to yoga, this is a relatively advanced move, so I just want to try to make something that is advanced, a little more beginner-friendly. And these tips and tricks hopefully will help you as you move forward. Thanks so much for tuning in, and remember to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, Native Yoga Center. And go check us out on our website at nativeyogacenter.com. All right, on that note, I have another tutorial coming up at 12 p.m. every Thursday, 11:30 a.m. and 12 p.m. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you soon.